Now the Osmumten's Fang is probably one of the most talked about items right now. It's an incredibly powerful weapon that has a bunch of different uses, specifically in killing monsters that have very high defense. So I thought it'd be interesting to test out how viable it is to rebuild with an Osmumten's Fang. With the item approaching 100 mil, it's not totally unreasonable to do that. So I'm going to start with just an Osmumten's Fang in my bank, and we're going to test it out at a wide variety of monsters and bosses, and let's see how much money we can make to see how easy it would be to rebuild with this item. So if we go ahead and check our bank, there it is, that's all we have, the Osmumten's Fang. We're going to be starting 100% from scratch, no items, and we're going to see what we can get done with the Fang. Now one benefit right off the bat is it will be a pretty accurate weapon even without other gear. Obviously we're going to buy some stuff pretty soon, but like I said, all we have is the Fang, so we have to go kill something with it. Now the Osmumten's Fang is actually quite good at the giant mole. And I think that would be a really good place to start. You don't really need that much gear to kill the giant mole, and I think the Fang should be pretty effective here. The only problem is because we don't have any money, we don't have the Falador shield yet, so we have to go kill the mole once or twice, so we may have to run around here a little bit. Another really nice part of the Fang is it comes with a built-in special attack, which is actually quite good, so we don't need to invest in a spec weapon, at least for a while. I feel like the giant mole knows when you don't have the Falador shield, and it just keeps running around. Okay, so there we go, we got our very first kill, worth 25k, not too much, but you know, it's somewhere to start. Okay, so we're gonna dump this into the Grand Exchange, get a little bit of money to start with. So after selling everything off, we're at 25k, which is a pretty good place to start. We're gonna start by buying an Amulet of Glory, an incredibly cheap upgrade. And we're also gonna run over here to Purdue and go ahead and buy yourself a Falador Shield 4. Probably the most important upgrade here because it locates the mole for you, no more running around aimlessly. Now we can run around with a purpose. Now right now my max hit is actually only 26, which seems pretty low, but the Fang doesn't actually have a very high max hit. What makes it really strong is it hits very consistently. It does this by rolling your accuracy check twice. So if you miss the first check, it'll re-roll again, and you know, the odds of missing twice are much less. And also uses a different formula to determine your damage roll. So you're never going to hit a true natural 0. You can still miss, but you're never going to actually hit 0. And that's why it's such a good weapon against high defense monsters. Okay, so we did a few more kills at the mole just to get a bit more money. I think we did 3 or 4. We sold everything, we're up to 65k now, and it's, well, time for another upgrade. I'm going to go ahead and buy a few items here. We're going to buy the climbing boots because they're dirt cheap. We're going to go ahead and buy the proselyte top and bottom because prayer is very important and they're incredibly cheap. And I'm also going to run to the Keliomancer's chest and buy some rune gloves because we're poor and can't afford barrows right now, but that'll do for now. So with that kill, we have done around 20 or 25 minutes of killing the mole, and we've gotten, it looks like, about 14 kills. Not bad considering all we have pretty much is the Fang, but that would speed up as we get a bit better gear. Maybe invest in a cannon or something, but I don't think we're going to stick here that long. Now after selling off all our loot, we are up to 400k, which is nice, but that will quickly be spent. First up here, we're going to invest into a Helm of Needed Knot because we desperately need a helm. And we're also going to pick up ourselves a pair of Barrows gloves, which will be a significant upgrade over the rune gloves. From here, actually, I'm not really sure what else we could buy. I guess we're just going to rock with this for a little while. So there we go, we just finished up another 30 odd kills at the giant mole, and I gotta say the Fang is incredibly good here. So after selling off all our drops, we are up to pretty much a mil. So our first mil earned in, you know, the first couple hours, pretty damn good. So although the giant mole is probably nearly a mil an hour with just the Fang, I think it's time to move on to something else. And the next place I want to test it is actually Rune Dragons. Although conventionally the Dragon Hunter Lance has been the best option there, the Fang is now just as good. Because it is so effective at shredding defense, it's actually a very viable alternative. But first we're going to go ahead and buy a little bit of gear. We're going to go ahead and buy some defensive armor. We're going to get the Varrock's plate skirt and the Torag's plate body, both very cheap right now. So here's a gear setup we're going in with. The attack cape is, you know, there's a purpose for that, but we'll explain that in a minute. We're also going in with a rune kite shield and some insulated boots. Now theoretically, killing rune dragons should be upwards of about 1.4 mil per hour. But I'm not really sure how long our trips are going to last with just Barrow's armor. Normally people do this in Justiciar, but you can't afford that yet. Oh man, we just shred through these rune dragons. These things have such high defensive stats as well that it's pretty impressive. Okay, so there's our last kill of the inventory. It looks like we got about 7 kills, which is a bit on the low end, mainly because we're taking more damage than you normally would, but the damage that we're actually doing seems quite good. So for our first hour, I was able to get 47 kills at the rune dragons, which is very good. I mean, the wiki lists a rate of 45 per hour with the Dragon Enter Lance, and we're using Barrow's armor here with an Amulet of Glory, which means there's definitely some room for improvement. Well, this just in, the most dangerous activity in the world is no longer skydiving or Alaskan crab fishing, it's actually trimming your balls. But unlike a terrifying northern crabbing adventure, there is a solution, and it's the Performance Package 4.0 by Manscaped, the sponsor of today's video. First things first, the Performance Package comes with the lawnmower. The lawnmower is a cordless razor, and it uses something called skin-safe technology to help prevent yourself from, nicking yourself or cutting yourself. And as many of you know, you really don't want to cut yourself down there. It's also waterproof. Now, as most RuneScape players know, the only time to have a shower without any experience waste is that tiny little window when the game servers are down and they're doing their weekly update. Well, to help freshen yourself up in between those small windows, Manscaped has something called the Crop Reviver and the Crop Preserver. The performance package also comes with the Weed Whacker. This is for dealing with pesky nose or ear hairs, because if you don't have hair coming out of your nose yet, trust me, you will soon. If you want to give Manscaped a try, you can use the link in my description or the code FLIPPING to get 20% off and free international shipping. And for a limited time, it's also going to come with a couple of free gifts, the Shed Travel Bag and some Manscaped anti-chafing boxers. And thanks again to Manscaped for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. Okay, so about an hour later, I think about 50 minutes, and I think that's going to be our last inventory for now. Rune Dragons are pretty good, but we've already earned ourselves, I think, enough money to move on to the next monster. First things first though, we need to, of course, sell off our loot. So there we go, 2.6 mil. Now what are we going to do with this? Well, I think probably the next biggest upgrade we can actually purchase would be a Berserker ring, which we're going to go ahead and buy right away. Now of course we have to go imbue that as well, but there we go, that is +8 strength bonus. Now from here, there's a couple upgrades I want to get before we move on to one of our first, S tier moneymakers. Firstly, we need to go ahead and buy Dragon Boots. That's pretty simple. But the next thing I want to do is upgrade our shield slot. The Dragon Defender is just too good to pass up, and I actually don't have one, so we need to go get one from the Cyclopses, and that's why I have the Attack Cape. The Attack Cape gives infinite tokens in the Warriors Guild basement, which means we don't need to go do any BS to get them. We can just straight up go ahead and kill some Cyclopses. Okay, there it is finally. It took a little bit longer than I was hoping. Over 200 kills of the Cyclopses, but there it is, the Dragon Defender. It's really just too good of an upgrade to not get. Got 400k in loot just from the Cyclopses, which is pretty damn good. But now that we have that done with, I think it's finally time to move on to our next boss, and that's going to be Vorkath. Now, similar to Rune Dragons, the Osmumten's Fang really does shine at Vorkath. I checked the DPS calculator for both Rune Dragons and Vorkath, and assuming you haven't lowered their defense stats at all, the Osmumten's Fang is actually better at both of them. Now, considering we don't have a spec weapon, the Fang is by and large just going to be the better option here. Now, the only other thing I really need to buy for Vorkath is some supplies. We're going to buy some runes to teleport out, and of course we need to buy the extended anti-fire, the combat potions, and the anti-venom. Now, killing Vorkath with a Fang should be, for the most part, the same. There's only one thing that I think is going to be significantly different, and that is going to be the Wooks walking during the acid phase. Because it's a 5-tick weapon, we're going to have to modify a bit how we do that. Other than that, though, it should be pretty much the same. Now, I'm stopping after a handful of kills to go make another upgrade here. We don't really need our defensive barrows gear for Vorkath. It's pretty handy, but I think we can also just upgrade to the obsidian armor to get a bit more damage in. Now, after selling all our loot, we were just able to afford the obsidian plate body, which is about 1 mil, which should help increase our damage a bit. Now, each Vorkath kill is pretty consistent in time. You're not going to get absurdly quick kills, but you're not going to get very slow ones either. The Fang really does minimize the variance you get in kill times, which is kind of nice in a way. but probably not going to be the weapon you're going to use to try to get a personal best or complete a combat achievement. Alright, so I think we're done with our very first hour of Vorkath. It went pretty well, although I made some mistakes doing, the acid phase a couple times. So that slowed us down a bit, plus we don't have, the best gear in the game currently. But I believe we still were able to get about 25 kills in an hour, which is reasonably good. Obviously, you can improve on that. But 25 kills an hour is a pretty good benchmark to start with. I was consistently getting 3 kill trips, but I think I could get 4 kill trips more often once I practice with the Fang a bit more. So we went back to do another hour of Vorkath to see if we could improve, and did we improve? Well, yes, by 1 kill per hour. So this hour we got 26 kills, which is a bit better. Even at 25 kills an hour, we're still making about 3 mil in profit per hour, which is super good. In 2022, Vorkath is still incredibly profitable, and the Fang competes, if not outclasses, the Dragon Hunter Lance there as well. Okay, so here's a loot tab worth about 6 mil. I did of course have to buy some supplies which ate into it a little bit, but let's sell this off for now and then we'll maybe move on to another boss. Alright, so after dumping everything, we are at 5.7 mil, which is pretty good. I mean, about 3 mil per hour for Vorkath, can't complain about that. Plus everything in our inventory adds up to roughly actually about 10 mil. So the rebuild is going quite well in my opinion. Now I just went and checked my Slayer task, and it turns out it's actually for the alchemical Hydra, and that got me thinking, is the Fang good at the Hydra? And after putting it in the DPS calculator, it turns out it's actually pretty good. Now it's not quite as good as a Dragon Hunter Lance at Hydra, and obviously not quite as good as the Twisted Bow either, but it's not significantly worse. The average kill speed is only about a difference of 5 seconds, which is not super significant. Now for the Hydra, we're going to make a few upgrades. Firstly, we're going to buy an Amulet of Fury at the very least. The Glory feels a little sinful, so we'll get rid of that. Now I'm also going to upgrade to the Obsidian Plate Legs, as well as switch out our cape for the Arty Cloak 3. Not only does it look better, I think, but it also provides a prayer bonus. So yeah, okay, we look way better now, jeez. So for Hydra, we do get to take advantage of the Slayer Helm, which is pretty nice. Now, I've never actually done melee Hydra, so this will kind of be new for me, but I think the concept is pretty much the exact same. Now, once again, the Fang is incredibly accurate at Hydra. Doing it in melee form, in my opinion, is just a little bit worse than ranging it. Because you have to drag the Hydra around, you just are going to be missing attacks more often than, if you're using a Dragon Hunter crossbow or a Twisted Bow. For example, during the blue phase, you have to run all the way down here. Normally you can attack as you move, but with the lance you can't really do that. So overall I think it's a little bit slower just from having to run around, but that's not really a Fang exclusive problem, that's just more of a melee issue. Oh hey, look at that, a Hydra leather on kill count 739. The leather is actually kind of valuable right now, 5.4 mil for that thing. Gonna definitely help boost our money a bit. Okay, so I finished up with an hour of the alchemical Hydra and I ended up with 21 kills. It's a bit lower than what the wiki states, partly because, this is not quite as good as some of the other options. But even at 21 kills per hour, we're still making about 3 mil on average every hour, plus we got kind of lucky. So the Fang is still a pretty viable weapon here, just not quite as good as some of the other options. Now I actually only have about 20 or 30 kills left on my task, so I'm going to finish it up and we'll see how much money we actually get from it. So that is going to be the final kill of the task and brings us up to roughly around 50 kills total at the Hydra in about 2 and a bit hours. So here's the final loot from a couple hours of Hydra with the Fang. We ended up getting roughly 10 mil, which is, lucky because we got the Hydra leather, but the alchemical Hydra is still very consistent and pretty damn good with the Fang. So let's liquidate all our items here and we'll see how much money we actually made in a quick little rebuild with the Fang. So we're selling off everything we bought, the Fury, we're gonna unimbue the Berserker ring, a couple things we can't get back like the Barrow's gloves purchase, but whatever. In the end, we ended up with 18.5 mil in profit, and only took me about 10 hours. That's including all the time doing lower level things like the mole, the time it took me to get the Dragon Defender, everything like that, about 10 hours all in total. for nearly 20 mil. Pretty good, I think. Because the Fang is so common, I believe it's eventually going to become pretty affordable, and I think at that point, it's going to be a no-brainer purchase because it's so useful at a variety of monsters. Now, before I go here, I want to give a giant thank you to all of my members over on YouTube. Thank you so much to March3258 and Pewter, who just joined the Dragon tier, joining the Hybrid, Alejandra, and Kush Patel. Thank you guys so much, really appreciate it. Also, thank you to Yo-Yo Sub 89, Carter, Mexos, Fat606, and NDM001 for subscribing at the Rune tier. Thanks again, and I will see you next time.